everybody, I'm Russ. Today in this video I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and this particular car. I'm not sure if I'll be making a lot more videos like this in the future, but I thought this particular one might be helpful to somebody. I know when I was buying this car, I found that online there was a pretty distinct lack of reviews and videos about the base model, because of course everybody wants the S, which I understand. It has more horsepower, and you know, the GTS and those models seem to be much more well covered than the base 2.7 liter car. So I thought a little bit of insight on this particular car would be helpful, and also I think this particular car is at a pretty nice point in its life cycle where it's still modern, still desirable, still relatively fresh. It's still only the last generation, and you know, Porsche does that wonderful thing where they tend to just evolve designs rather than just completely change them. So the new 718 and this car next to each other look very similar, and I think to the layman you'd be pretty hard pressed to tell them apart. So that's nice. So you can, you know, it's a really nice ticket to a very special car and a really fun ownership experience that I've enjoyed a lot over the last year. And I thought that it would be really good to share some of my experience, maybe on an ongoing basis, because certainly a lot of things in this car that I don't know a lot about and that I'm still learning. So with that in mind, let's get started. So I've owned this car about a year, going on 11 and a half months. So in February it'll be a year. In that time I've put 13,000 miles on it. So we spent a good bit of time together. The first year of ownership was 2020 for me. So that was, you know, the pandemic and lockdown, and I spent a lot of time looking for something to do. So sometimes I'll just go for a drive with no destination. In general, I think we're at a pretty good time in Porsche's history, because you're getting a nice intersection between like very cool special cars that are hitting the bottom of their depreciation cycle, like the 997, like the 996, like this car. That I think people are starting to take notice of, and I think we're probably about a year from those cars starting to shoot up in value. That's my layman's. I've been on forums and Reddit for a couple of years. Well, I mean, more than a couple, probably about 10 at this point. But you know, I'm no expert, but that's just what I'm seeing based on the. You know, will they ever get to the same level as air-cooled cars? Probably not. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the future of internal combustion is. So I made a short list of pros and cons. I know that's pretty generic, but it's a good approach, right? So pros, try to keep this as objective as possible. So one of the main pros is that it is relatively affordable for what it is. A new 718 Boxster is going to run you probably about $70,000. If you want an S with some options, it's going to be about 80 grand. This car was these cars, this 981 generation, range between, I would say, 28,000 and 38 to 40,000 for a low miles, really clean one with some good options. So they're relatively affordable, not, you know, use Toyota money exactly, but they are still, if you're shopping for something like a new Miata, these are definitely something to consider. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for an ND Miata, and I ended up going with this car. These cars, by and large, are known to be very reliable, dependable, modern, well-designed cars. That said, warranty doesn't hurt. I purchased this one with an aftermarket 2-year, 24,000 mile warranty that I had to use once. I'll talk about that more in a little bit. Interestingly, this particular car is a manual transmission. It's a 6-speed manual, and it has a roof. As you can see, the top is down right now. Every major Porsche special edition car that has come out in the last few years, like with the exception of things like the 911R, has been a convertible with a manual transmission. So I think that once those dry up and they become unobtainium, you know, and they're $500,000 for a Porsche Speedster, or even $1 million, people will start looking to the more normal models, and they'll benefit from that in value as well. Pros. Another one of the pros of this car is a lot of people say the Boxster handles superior the 911. Now that's all preference, obviously. Some people like the rear engine dynamic. Of course, that car has been engineered to handle the way it does these days. It's not as characterful as it used to be, but this car is incredibly well balanced, very neutral, very easy to drive for someone who doesn't really know what they're doing, and very fun to drive for someone who does know what they're doing. I'm somewhere in between, so I definitely have a good time driving this thing fast. You can, you know, balance it on the brakes, get it, you know, if it's understeering a little bit, you can just brush the brakes a little bit in a corner, and it just turns in a little more. It doesn't, you know, the back doesn't get unstable, and never is scary. It's extremely forgiving. A big point with Porsches in the last few years seems to be the flat six. Now the cars are going away from that. They're moving more towards the turbocharged flat 4s and turbocharged flat 6s. This car has a 2.7 liter naturally aspirated flat 6, making 265 horsepower. So that's almost 100 horsepower per liter. It feels phenomenal. Most people who drive this will tell you it's underpowered, but probably because they didn't rev it above 5,000 RPM. Once you get it above 5 grand, it feels great. It sounds great. It has a ton of power up there. Plenty for really anything you need to do with a car that weighs this much. And you know, it's usable power. I mean, I drove an S when I was shopping for these cars, and it was great. It was very fast and a lot of fun to drive, but to be honest with you, things got illegal really fast in that car. So, you know, this you can run it through first and second gear, and you're not doing 100 miles an hour already. It gets good. It gets good gas mileage, which was something I was surprised about. If you don't rev it a lot, you'll get to 27, 28 miles per gallon pretty easily. On the practical side of things, it has two big storage places. It has a big front trunk and a big rear trunk. And I think, the last pro of it, which I tried to avoid this, but it's a Porsche, and it's pretty hard to avoid that when when you're driving it. The way it handles, the way it feels to sit in, I mean, everything is very special, even for a base car. The controls are all perfectly weighted. The pedals are all perfectly weighted to each other. I know these are electric power steering units, but the steering feel is fantastic. So whatever they did is great. There's a floor hinged gas pedal. The pedals are really nicely spaced for heel toe downshifts. All the things you'd expect from a Porsche. So definitely that. Now to the cons, and there are some cons. There are actually as many cons, I think, as there are pros. It's expensive. It's expensive to run. The P-car tax is definitely real. The Porsche tax is real for sure. I had to replace a coil pack on this car about 6 months ago, and my warranty paid for the coil pack, which was really nice because it was like a $300 piece of plastic, but they didn't pay for the spark plug, and the spark plug was $28. So that was fun. I had to pay for the spark plug. It's a little small inside. It's roomier than you would expect for a 2-seat convertible with this kind of footprint, but it is a little small inside. The stereo we have to talk about the stereo. The stereo is absolute garbage. My car has the bass head unit and the bass stereo. I know it was offered with a Bose stereo. That's probably better. I mean, at least I hope it is, because this is bad. It has terrible bass response. The doors rattle, which I think there was a recall for, but I haven't gotten it done yet. So it's all around, the stereo is awful. It's fine when you have the top down and you can't hear the finer parts of the frequencies and stuff, but it's bad. It's so bad. So if you're looking at one of these, maybe plan to upgrade the head unit or try to buy it with the Bose stereo, which is probably a little bit better. I put this down as a con. I don't know if you can really count it, but you do have to rev it out to get to the power. That's both a pro and a con. The engine is very classically small displacement, high revving, relatively low torque. It's pretty classic Porsche. You basically do need a warranty with one of these because all of the parts are very expensive. If you buy one, the chances that it's going to break are very low, but if it does, you're going to be paying out the ass to fix it. So good news is that a lot of these are new enough that you can get them with certified pre-owned warranties, and aftermarket warranties are relatively affordable, so that's good. When you're shopping for one of these used, the options are going to be different on every single car you look at, because Porsche basically is like, here's a car, we'll give you seats and a steering wheel, you have to option out the rest. Now, I've sat in the base seats on these, and in my opinion, for a car of this price, they're ridiculously bad. They're not adjustable, they don't give you enough layback, and they are just overall, I think, substandard for something of, that's gonna be 65 grand. So I was lucky enough to find a car that had the 14-way adjustable seats. These are a must, in my opinion. They give you a lot more options in seating. You're not gonna be buying spacers to lift them up or lean them back a little bit more or anything like that. So now I've just, that's just from my experience. Your mileage may vary, but I'm not the first person who's read that the base seats don't give you enough adjustability, because they're only 2-way adjustable, I believe. So, and manuals are going to be relatively rare because most of them were sold as PDKs in the United States. So yeah, I'm going to the track in about a month. So I'm going to get the car prepped. I'm just going to do pads and fluid on it, some high temp fluid and a little bit better brake pads to make sure I don't go into a wall. And if there's anything I missed or anything you'd like to see in a future vlog or a release, let me know.